A young woman walking through the dense woods of Pennsylvania on a crisp autumn afternoon. She's alone, her boots crunching softly against the fallen leaves, when she stumbles upon something strange, a rusted metal object half buried in the earth. At first glance, it looks like an old canister or perhaps some forgotten relic of war. But as she kneels to inspect it closer, she realizes its true nature. It's unexploded ordnance, a bomb left over from World War I. And what happens next will leave investigators baffled for years. Hey friends, you're in Dreamcatcher Stories, your cozy corner for stories that got lost along the way. Hit me up in the comments and tell me how this one hits you. Now, let's get sneaky and peek behind the curtain. The story begins in 2021, deep within the rolling hills of northeastern Pennsylvania. This area is known for its serene landscapes, dotted with small towns where everyone knows each other by name. It's a place where life moves slowly, and people take pride in their connection to history, especially the remnants of wars long past. For decades, locals have whispered about hidden dangers lurking beneath the surface, leftover munitions buried during training exercises nearly a century ago. Most dismissed these tales as mere folklore, until one fateful day when reality collided with legend. Lydia was no stranger to the woods. Growing up in this part of the country meant spending countless hours exploring trails and creeks, developing a deep appreciation for the natural world around her. On that particular afternoon, however, Lydia wasn't out for leisure. She had been searching for mushrooms to bring home to her family, venturing farther than usual into areas less frequented by hikers. The forest here felt different, quieter, heavier somehow, as if it carried secrets unwilling to be uncovered. When Lydia spotted the metallic glint peeking out from the soil, curiosity got the better of her. At first, she thought it might be treasure, a piece of history waiting to be rediscovered. Carefully, she brushed away the dirt, revealing more of the object's shape. Its size and weight suggested it wasn't just any artifact. It was far too large and ominous to ignore. Lydia froze, her instincts screaming at her to step back. She had heard enough stories growing up to recognize the potential danger before her. Her heart raced as she pulled out her phone, snapping photos and sending them to local authorities. Within hours, bomb disposal experts arrived on the scene, confirming her worst fears. This was indeed live ammunition, untouched and volatile after all these years. Word spread quickly throughout the community. Neighbors gathered near the edge of the woods, whispering anxiously about how close they'd come to disaster. Bomb squads worked tirelessly to secure the area, cordoning off trails and warning residents to stay clear. As days turned into weeks, additional discoveries emerged. More bombs, grenades, even fragments of shrapnel scattered across miles of woodland. Each find sent shockwaves through the town, forcing everyone to confront the lingering scars of conflict buried not only in the ground but also in their collective memory. Let's rewind to understand how such relics ended up here in the first place. During World War I, parts of rural Pennsylvania were transformed into makeshift military training grounds. Soldiers practiced maneuvers, simulated combat scenarios, and tested weaponry in preparation for deployment overseas. While most explosives were detonated or removed following the war, records suggest that many remained behind, either intentionally buried or simply abandoned due to oversight. Over time, forests reclaimed the land, hiding these deadly remnants beneath layers of soil and vegetation. Generations later, few remembered the full extent of what lay beneath their feet. But why now? Why did Lydia stumble upon this bomb in 2021, nearly a century after it was likely discarded? Some speculated climate change played a role, with shifting weather patterns causing erosion that exposed previously concealed hazards. Others pointed to increased human activity in once remote areas, suggesting that modern development had disturbed the delicate balance keeping these artifacts hidden. Whatever the reason, Lydia's discovery marked the beginning of a broader reckoning, one that would force the town to grapple with both its past and present. As news of the unexploded ordnance spread beyond local borders, national attention followed. Journalists descended upon the town, eager to document the unfolding drama. Among them was Linda Hayes, an investigative reporter renowned for her work uncovering forgotten histories. Linda spent weeks interviewing residents, poring over archival documents, and collaborating with historians to piece together a comprehensive timeline of events. What she uncovered painted a chilling picture. Reports of similar incidents dating back decades, all linked to the same stretch of land. Yet somehow, none had triggered widespread alarm or action until now. Then came the twist. Forensic analysis revealed traces of chemical compounds inside several recovered bombs, indicating they may have been designed for biological warfare. While never deployed during World War I, experimental weapons programs explored such possibilities, leaving behind prototypes that posed catastrophic risks if mishandled. Could these devices still harbor active agents capable of causing harm? Authorities scrambled to assess the situation, enlisting toxicology experts and environmental scientists to evaluate potential threats. Meanwhile, panic gripped the community as rumors swirled about possible contamination affecting water supplies and wildlife. Public fascination with the case grew exponentially thanks to burgeoning true crime podcasts and documentaries. Among them was Time's Echoes of War*, hosted by investigative journalist Mark Thompson. Each episode combined archival footage, expert analysis, and newly uncovered evidence to paint a vivid picture of events surrounding Lydia's discovery. Listeners became armchair detectives, debating theories ranging from government cover-ups to accidental exposure. During one particularly heated discussion forum, a listener named Brian Carter posed a thought-provoking question. What if we're looking at more than just leftover bombs? What if this land holds darker secrets? Fast forward to 2023, and advancements in technology offered new hope. Researchers developed sophisticated imaging techniques capable of detecting underground anomalies without disturbing the soil. Using ground-penetrating radar and drone surveillance, teams mapped extensive networks of buried munitions spanning hundreds of acres. These findings prompted renewed scrutiny of similar cases nationwide, sparking debates about responsibility and accountability. Who should bear the cost of cleanup efforts? How could communities protect themselves from future risks while honoring the sacrifices made by those who trained on these lands? One breakthrough involved analyzing soil samples collected near recovery sites. Results indicated elevated levels of heavy metals and other contaminants, raising concerns about long-term ecological damage. Environmental activists joined forces with local leaders to demand immediate intervention, arguing that failure to act would jeopardize public health and safety. Their campaign gained traction online, drawing support from thousands of individuals passionate about preserving both history and habitat. Social media platforms buzzed with hashtags like #ClearTheLand and #ProtectOurFuture, amplifying calls for systemic change. Meanwhile, personal stories added emotional depth to the narrative. Families shared memories of loved ones who served in World War I, highlighting the sacrifices made by previous generations. Others recounted harrowing encounters with unexploded ordnance, underscoring the ongoing threat posed by these silent killers. One grandmother recalled how her father narrowly escaped injury as a child when he accidentally unearthed a grenade while playing outside. "We've lived with this fear for so long," she said tearfully during a town hall meeting. "It's time someone finally listens." By now, you might think the story ends here, but it doesn't. In recent months, researchers announced they had decoded messages embedded in military correspondence archived during the war era. Using advanced algorithms, analysts identified patterns suggesting deliberate concealment of hazardous materials rather than accidental abandonment. Were officials aware of the dangers posed by these devices? If so, why hadn't they taken steps to mitigate risks sooner? Questions lingered, fueling skepticism and distrust among affected communities. As investigations continued, amateur sleuths joined professional detectives in piecing together fragments of information. Online forums dedicated to discussing leads attracted thousands of members worldwide. Conversations ranged from speculative musings to well-researched arguments supported by data. One member, Amanda Grant, gained prominence when she identified similarities between Lydia's case and other unsolved mysteries involving wartime debris. Her findings prompted authorities to explore connections previously dismissed as coincidental. Are we looking at isolated incidents or part of something larger? Throughout these developments, Emily maintained a complex relationship with her subject matter. On one hand, she felt driven by professional curiosity and moral obligation to uncover truths buried beneath layers of myth and misinformation. On the other hand, she grappled with personal demons triggered by immersing herself so deeply in darkness. How do you study something so monstrous without letting it consume you? She mused during a rare moment of reflection. Her efforts culminated in a comprehensive book published in late 2023, titled Times Beneath the Surface: Unearthing America's Forgotten Wars *. The manuscript combined historical research, contemporary analysis, and first-hand accounts to create the most complete picture of Lydia's journey ever assembled. And there we go. Another memory back from the dark. Don't go too far. I've got more mysteries itching to be told. What do you think happened to Lydia? Let me know in the comments below. Your thoughts matter, and they shape the stories I share next. So go ahead, type it out, and hit send. I'll see you there. A man desperate for power invites a shaman into his home, believing she holds the key to unlocking his dreams. But what starts as a ritual for wealth and influence turns into a deadly game of deception. By the time he realizes what's happening, it's too late. Her axe is already in his chest. This is the chilling tale of Mona Fandi, a story that shocked Malaysia in 1993 and continues to haunt those who hear it. Hey friends, you're in Dreamcatcher Stories, your cozy corner for stories that got lost along the way. Hit me up in the comments and tell me how this one hits you. Now, let's get sneaky and peek behind the curtain. Our story begins in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, where ambition meets desperation. The year is 1993, and tensions are high among the elite. Political power struggles dominate headlines, with everyone vying for their chance at greatness. Amidst this chaos stands a man we'll call Maslin, a mid-level politician hungry for recognition. He's not just ambitious, he's obsessed. For years, he has clawed his way through local politics. But no matter how hard he tries, he can't seem to break through to the top tier. That is, until he hears whispers of someone who might hold the answers. A mysterious woman known only as the most famous shaman in the country. Mona Fandi wasn't just any spiritual figure. Her name carried weight across Malaysia, spoken in hushed tones by those seeking shortcuts to success. Some called her a miracle worker. Others whispered she dabbled in dark magic. To Maslin, however, Mona represents hope, a lifeline to reclaiming the clout and influence slipping through his fingers. Desperate, he arranges a meeting, inviting her and two companions, her husband and assistant, into his lavish home. Everything seems normal at first glance. Candles flicker softly in dimly lit rooms, incense fills the air, and Mona exudes an aura of calm confidence. Even though Maslin knows tonight's ritual will change everything, or so he believes, he couldn't possibly fathom the true cost of her services. As the evening progresses, Mona guides Maslin through a series of meditations designed to unlock his desires. She tells him to close his eyes and picture himself rising higher than ever before, becoming more powerful, respected, adored. Imagine gold coins raining down on you, she says soothingly. Feel the weight of silver bars filling your hands. With each word, Muslin grows more entranced, picturing the life he craves. But while he focuses inward, Mona moves silently behind him. In one swift motion, she grabs an axe, raises it above her head, and brings it crashing down into his chest. The sound echoes through the room like thunder, snapping Maslin out of his trance, but only for a moment. His body slumps forward as blood pools around him, marking the end of his quest for power. The twist? This isn't Mona's first kill, it's her 8th. Over the years, she has perfected her craft, using rituals as cover for murder. Each victim unknowingly signed their death warrant by trusting her promises of prosperity. But this time, something goes wrong. News of Maslin's death spreads quickly, drawing attention from authorities and journalists alike. Investigators soon uncover evidence linking Mona to previous unsolved cases, painting a disturbing picture of calculated brutality disguised as mysticism. Public fascination reaches fever pitch as details emerge about her cold-blooded methods and unshakable demeanor. Despite being arrested and sentenced to death, Mona remains unfazed. To her, this trial isn't punishment, it's validation. Every camera flash, every headline screaming her name fuels her insatiable hunger for fame. On the day of her execution, she walks to the gallows with a smile, treating it like a red carpet event rather than a grim finale. Her husband and assistant meet the same fate, convicted as accomplices in her crimes. Yet even in death, Mona's legacy lives on, a haunting reminder of how far some will go to achieve infamy. Fast forward to modern times, and technology offers new ways to revisit old mysteries. Advances in forensic analysis allow researchers to examine cold cases with fresh eyes, uncovering patterns once hidden in plain sight. A team led by Dr. Emily Carter applies machine learning algorithms to sift through decades-old records, flagging connections between seemingly unrelated incidents. Their findings suggest Mona may have inspired copycat killers or been part of a larger network exploiting vulnerable individuals. Could there be more victims waiting to be discovered? Or does this case stand alone as a singular act of depravity? Social media amplifies public interest, turning Mona's story into a cultural phenomenon. Podcasts dissect her motives, documentaries explore her psyche, and forums buzz with theories ranging from plausible to absurd. One listener named Brian Carter poses a thought-provoking question during a live discussion. What if Mona didn't act alone? What if there's more to this than meets the eye? These debates reignite investigations into forgotten leads, pushing authorities to dig deeper into the shadows of Malaysia's past. Meanwhile, amateur sleuths join forces with seasoned detectives, piecing together fragments of information overlooked in 1993. Among them is Linda Hayes, whose meticulous research uncovers startling parallels between Mona's crimes and other ritualistic murders worldwide. Her work prompts renewed scrutiny of similar cases, sparking global conversations about the intersection of spirituality and violence. As these threads intertwine, a clearer picture emerges not just of Mona, but of humanity itself. In 2023, significant progress is made in understanding the broader implications of this case. Forensic anthropologists analyze skeletal remains recovered from remote locations linked to suspected rituals, shedding light on practices long buried beneath layers of myth and misinformation. Each discovery brings closure to grieving families, while simultaneously deepening society's collective unease about the extent of such atrocities. Public memorials erected in honor of victims serve dual purposes, commemorating lives lost and warning future generations against falling prey to false promises. Throughout these developments, Emily maintains a complex relationship with her subject matter. On one hand, she feels driven by professional curiosity and moral obligation to uncover truths buried beneath layers of myth and misinformation. On the other hand, she grapples with personal demons triggered by immersing herself so deeply in darkness. How do you study something so monstrous without letting it consume you? She muses during a rare moment of reflection. Her efforts culminate in a comprehensive book published in late 2023 titled Times Beneath the Veil: Understanding Ritualistic Crimes in Modern Society*. The manuscript combines historical research, contemporary analysis, and first-hand accounts to create the most complete picture of Mona's life and crimes ever assembled. It resonates strongly with readers, sparking widespread discussions about mental health, criminal justice reform, and the nature of evil itself. Yet, despite all the revelations and advancements, fundamental questions remain unanswered. What exactly caused Mona to become who she was? Can anyone fully comprehend the depths of such depravity? And perhaps most importantly, how do we prevent future generations from producing similar monsters? These queries linger heavily over the conclusion of our narrative, reminding us that while much has been learned since Mona's time, much remains mysterious. For every answer uncovered, new mysteries arise. As Emily puts it poignantly during a final interview, we may never fully understand Mona Fandi or anyone like her, but understanding ourselves better might help stop others from following in her footsteps. So, as we close this chapter of exploration into one woman's descent into madness, let us also consider what lessons it holds for humanity moving forward. Because only by confronting our darkest fears can we hope to illuminate paths toward light and redemption. Or will the shadows always hold sway, reminding us of the limits of human understanding? And there we go, another memory back from the dark. Don't go too far, I've got more mysteries itching to be told. What do you think happened to Mona? Let me know in the comments below. Your thoughts matter, and they shape the stories I share next. So go ahead, type it out, and hit send. I'll see you there. It was a cold February night in 2022 when something unthinkable happened in southern Mexico. A woman working late at a hotel reception desk receives an urgent call from her husband. He's been robbed, his motorcycle stolen right out from under him while he was running errands. Determined to recover what was taken, the couple sets off into the dangerous streets of their crime-ridden city. But as they ventured deeper into the darkness, neither could have predicted the horrors that awaited them or how drastically their lives would change within hours. Hey friends, you're in Dreamcatcher Stories, your cozy corner for stories that got lost along the way. Hit me up in the comments and tell me how this one hits you. Now, let's get sneaky and peek behind the curtain. The story begins in San Cristal de las Casas, a picturesque yet perilous town nestled between rolling hills and vibrant landscapes. On the surface, it looks like any other charming Mexican locale, with cobblestone streets, colorful buildings, and bustling markets. Yet beneath its beauty lies a darker reality, a place riddled with street crime, drug trafficking, and violence. It's not uncommon for locals to warn visitors against wandering alone after sunset, especially in certain neighborhoods known for gang activity. For residents like Paula Ruiz, however, life here is simply part of the routine. She knows the risks, but has learned to navigate them carefully over time. Paula, a 41-year-old receptionist at a 4-star hotel, had just wrapped up another long shift on Saturday, February 19th. The lobby buzzed all evening with tourists checking in, asking questions about local attractions, or requesting clarifications about directions. By 11 p.m., things finally began to quiet down, giving her a moment to breathe. That's when her phone rang. It was her husband, Miguel, his voice tense and hurried. Someone had stolen his motorcycle, a prized possession and essential mode of transportation for their daily lives. Frustrated but resolute, Miguel asked Paula to meet him so they could search for the thief together. Paula hesitated. She knew better than to chase trouble in such a volatile area, but she also understood her husband's frustration. They lived paycheck to paycheck, and losing the bike meant more than inconvenience. It meant financial strain. After grabbing a flashlight and some basic supplies, Paula left the hotel and joined Miguel near the spot where the theft occurred. Together, they scoured nearby alleys and side streets, calling out occasionally in hopes of spotting the culprit. The air grew colder as midnight approached, but their determination kept them moving forward. As they delved deeper into unfamiliar territory, the atmosphere shifted noticeably. Streetlights flickered weakly, casting eerie shadows across empty sidewalks. Laughter echoed distantly from bars and clubs, but otherwise the streets felt eerily deserted. Then came the first sign of trouble. Faint voices whispering in hushed tones ahead. Paula gripped Miguel's arm tightly, urging caution. Whatever, or whoever, they were approaching didn't seem friendly. Still, they pressed on, driven by desperation and anger over the stolen bike. Suddenly, everything changed. From the shadows emerged three figures, their faces obscured by hoods. One carried a makeshift weapon, a metal pipe glinting ominously in the dim light. Without warning, they surrounded Paula and Miguel, demanding valuables and threatening violence if resistance ensued. What started as a simple attempt to retrieve a stolen item quickly spiraled into chaos. When Miguel tried to reason with them, pleading that the motorcycle was all they owned, the situation escalated violently. A struggle broke out, brief but brutal. In the confusion, Paula managed to break free, stumbling backward into the darkness. But Miguel wasn't so lucky. His cries for help faded as the attackers dragged him away, leaving Paula stranded and terrified. Alone and overwhelmed, Paula did the only thing she could think of: run. Her heart pounded wildly as she sprinted through winding alleyways, adrenaline masking the pain in her legs. She eventually stumbled upon a small convenience store still open late, collapsing inside as tears streamed down her face. Gasping for breath, she begged the clerk to call the police. Officers arrived shortly afterward, taking her statement and promising to launch an immediate investigation. But deep down, Paula feared the worst. This wasn't just a robbery gone wrong, it was a nightmare unfolding in real time. Let's rewind slightly to understand the couple's background. Paula and Miguel weren't reckless people. Quite the opposite. They were hardworking individuals who had built a modest life despite the challenges of living in such a volatile environment. Paula often joked that surviving in San Crisol required equal parts courage and luck. Over the years, they developed coping mechanisms, avoiding certain areas, staying vigilant, and relying on each other for support. Their bond was unshakable, forged through shared struggles and dreams of a better future. So when Miguel disappeared without explanation, Paula's world crumbled. Not knowing whether he was alive or dead consumed her every waking thought. Days turned into weeks as authorities combed the city for clues. Despite extensive searches and interviews with potential witnesses, no concrete evidence surfaced. Rumors circulated among locals, ranging from plausible theories, gang initiation rituals, to far-fetched speculation. Kidnapping rings targeting foreigners. Social media played a significant role in spreading awareness, with amateur detectives dissecting details posted online. Some suggested Miguel might have crossed paths with someone involved in organized crime. Others pointed to the prevalence of human trafficking in the region, speculating that victims were often targeted indiscriminately. Each theory added layers of complexity to an already baffling case. Meanwhile, Paula found herself trapped in limbo. Unable to focus on work or sleep peacefully, she spent countless nights replaying the events of that fateful evening in her mind. Friends and family rallied around her, offering emotional support and practical assistance. But nothing could fill the void left by Miguel's absence. As weeks stretched into months, hope dwindled. The once bustling household fell silent, save for the occasional sound of Paula sobbing quietly in her room. Her grief became a constant companion, shadowing her every move. Then came the twist. Nearly 6 months later, a breakthrough emerged. Investigators discovered a lead linking Miguel's disappearance to a series of unsolved crimes involving missing persons in the same vicinity. Among the recovered items was a blood-stained jacket believed to belong to Miguel. DNA testing confirmed the match, sending shockwaves through the community. Authorities speculated that Miguel might have been abducted and held captive before meeting a grim fate. While the exact circumstances remained unclear, one thing was certain: the perpetrators hadn't acted alone. Evidence suggested ties to a larger criminal network operating throughout the region. Public fascination with the case skyrocketed following these revelations. True crime enthusiasts flocked to forums debating possible motives and outcomes. Podcasts dedicated to exploring similar cases gained traction, drawing millions of listeners eager to piece together fragments of information. Episodes examining societal factors contributing to high crime rates resonated strongly with audiences navigating uncertain times. Could such tragedies happen anywhere? Host Paul Hayes posed this question rhetorically during the season finale, leaving viewers pondering implications long after the final episode aired. 2 years later, researchers announced they had decoded messages embedded in graffiti found near suspected crime scenes. Using sophisticated image recognition software, analysts identified recurring themes tied to specific locations and dates corresponding to known incidents. This revelation suggested the criminals may have left deliberate clues intended to taunt authorities even beyond capture. Was this arrogance or a calculated game designed to prolong suffering? Emily Carter, a forensic psychologist assigned to analyze behavioral patterns, mused aloud during a private meeting with colleagues. Her voice cracked slightly, betraying exhaustion mixed with awe at the complexity of their subject. Atmosphere shifted dramatically as public interest surged once again. Forums buzzed with discussions, piecing together timelines and debating theories. Conversations ranged from speculative musings to well-researched arguments supported by data. One member, Amanda Grant, gained prominence when she identified similarities between Miguel's disappearance and other mysterious deaths involving individuals found miles away from their last known location. Her findings prompted renewed scrutiny of potential links previously dismissed as coincidental. Are we looking at copycat crimes? Or does this suggest something larger? Families affected by similar losses gather annually to honor their loved ones, finding solace in shared memories and unwavering determination. "We won't stop fighting," says Linda Hayes during a memorial service held near San Crisol. Her voice cracks with emotion, underscoring the personal stakes involved. And so, the legend persists not merely as a relic of the past, but as a testament to human resilience in the face of incomprehensible evil. And there we go, another memory back from the dark. Don't go too far, I've got more mysteries itching to be told. What do you think happened to Miguel? Let me know in the comments below. Your thoughts matter, and they shape the stories I share next. So go ahead, type it out, and hit send. I'll see you there. It was a cold January morning in 1984 when something truly inexplicable happened in Daytona Beach, Florida. A young man, just 19 years old, woke up like any other day, ate breakfast, dropped his younger brother off at school, and drove to his university for class. But within hours, he vanished without a trace. Days turned into weeks, then months, and still no answers surfaced. And here's the kicker, he reappeared 10 years later, frozen solid inside a block of ice in the middle of a Wisconsin forest. How did he get there? What happened during those missing years? The mystery only deepens from here. Hey friends, you're in Dreamcatcher Stories, your cozy corner for stories that got lost along the way. Hit me up in the comments and tell me how this one hits you. Now, let's get sneaky and peek behind the curtain. The story begins in Daytona Beach, a quiet coastal town where life moves steadily under the warm Florida sun. Our protagonist lived an ordinary life with his family in a modest home near the beach. He was studying aeronautical mathematics, a subject as intricate as it sounds, and seemed destined for greatness. Friends described him as intelligent, ambitious, and kind-hearted. His days followed a predictable rhythm. Wake up early, take care of responsibilities, and focus on academics. Nothing about him suggested someone who would vanish into thin air or end up encased in ice hundreds of miles away. On January 24th, 1984, everything appeared normal. He started his day by heading downstairs, grabbing a quick bite to eat, and driving his younger brother Frank to school. After dropping him off, he made his way across town to the university campus. Witnesses confirmed seeing him park his car and walk toward the building where his classes were held. Yet, As soon as he stepped out of sight, something went terribly wrong. No one saw him again after that moment. His belongings remained untouched in his car, including his textbooks, wallet, and keys. It was as if he had simply evaporated into thin air. At first, authorities dismissed the disappearance as a potential runaway case. They speculated he might have left voluntarily due to stress or personal issues. However, those closest to him knew better. He wouldn't just leave, said a close friend during interviews. He cared too much about his family and his studies. As days stretched into weeks, panic set in among loved ones. Flyers were distributed, search parties organized, and pleas aired on local news channels, all to no avail. The oceanfront community rallied together, scouring nearby woods, beaches, and neighborhoods, but not a single clue emerged. Let's rewind to understand what made this case so baffling. Timothy wasn't reckless or prone to disappearing acts. In fact, he was meticulous, always planning ahead and keeping everyone informed of his whereabouts. Neighbors recalled seeing him regularly jogging along the coastline, waving hello to passers-by. His professors praised his dedication to learning, noting how often he stayed late to ask questions or clarify concepts. To everyone who knew him, Timothy represented stability, a beacon of reliability in uncertain times. So why did he vanish so suddenly? And why did all attempts to locate him fail? Then came the twist. Exactly 10 years later, in 1994, hunters stumbled upon a shocking discovery deep within the Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest in northern Wisconsin. There, partially buried beneath layers of snow and debris, lay a massive block of ice containing a human body perfectly preserved inside. Authorities identified the remains as belonging to none other than Timothy Molnar, the same teenager who disappeared a decade earlier. Initial examinations revealed no signs of trauma, poisoning, or illness. Instead, his body exhibited symptoms consistent with hypothermia, suggesting exposure to extreme cold temperatures shortly before death. But how did he travel over 1,300 miles from Florida to Wisconsin? Why was he found frozen solid despite being last seen alive in mild weather conditions? As investigators delved deeper into the case, they uncovered anomalies that defied logical explanation. For instance, Timothy's clothes showed no signs of wear or tear, indicating he hadn't wandered far once exposed to freezing temperatures. Additionally, dental records confirmed the body belonged to Timothy, yet certain details didn't align with known timelines. One theory posited he may have fallen victim to foul play, possibly kidnapped and transported against his will. Others speculated involvement from covert government operations experimenting with cryogenic technology. Whatever the truth, evidence pointed toward events far stranger than anyone could have imagined. Public fascination with the case skyrocketed almost overnight. True crime enthusiasts flocked to online forums, dissecting every detail available while debating possible explanations. Social media platforms buzzed with theories ranging from credible analyses to wild speculation. Among them was Brian Carter, a self-taught programmer who applied advanced algorithms to decode patterns hidden within archived materials related to similar disappearances nationwide. His findings drew widespread attention, suggesting connections between Timothy's case and broader criminal networks operating throughout rural America during the same period. Are we looking at isolated incidents or part of something larger? Meanwhile, amateur sleuths joined professional detectives in piecing together fragments of information. Podcasts dedicated to exploring Timothy's life and disappearance reached millions, sparking debates among listeners eager to solve the riddle themselves. Episodes examining societal factors contributing to such tragedies resonated strongly with audiences navigating uncertain times. Could such a mind exist today, armed with modern tools and access to classified systems? Host Paul Hayes posed this question rhetorically during the season finale of Time's Unraveling Genius*, leaving listeners pondering implications long after the episode aired. Fast forward to 2023, and advancements in forensic technology offer unprecedented opportunities for analyzing large data sets related to Timothy's case. Using machine learning models, researchers sifted through thousands of pages of archived material, flagging patterns previously overlooked by human eyes. Their findings suggest ties between Timothy's activities and similar disappearances worldwide, hinting at organized crime or rogue governmental factions. Could he have stumbled upon information threatening national security, triggering his elimination? Or was his fate tied to personal demons haunting him long before that fateful night? One breakthrough stood out above the rest. A notebook filled with hand-drawn diagrams depicting geometric shapes resembling crop circles. Inside, annotations referenced concepts borrowed directly from quantum theory, including mentions of black holes and multiverse theory. Experts struggled to interpret their meaning, though many agreed they pointed toward experimentation with untested scientific principles. Did he truly believe he could unlock doors to alternate realities? Or was this simply the product of mental instability exacerbated by pressure from his demanding career? By now, you might think the story ends here, but it doesn't. In recent years, new developments reignited interest in the case. Forensic genealogy techniques identified relatives linked to DNA profiles discovered near the crime scene, prompting authorities to revisit old leads. Investigators traced these connections back to individuals known to associate with underground organizations specializing in illegal technology trade. Could these groups have played a role in his death? If so, why target someone seemingly disconnected from their operations? Amidst growing intrigue, amateur sleuths joined professional detectives in piecing together fragments of information. Podcasts dedicated to exploring his life and crimes reached millions, sparking debates among listeners eager to solve the riddle themselves. Episodes examining societal factors contributing to his descent into madness resonated strongly with audiences navigating uncertain times. Could such a mind exist today, armed with modern tools and access to classified systems? Host Paul Hayes posed this question rhetorically during the season finale of Time's Unraveling Genius*, leaving listeners pondering implications long after the episode aired. 2 years later, researchers announced they had decoded messages embedded in artwork created during his final days. Sophisticated image recognition software identified recurring themes tied to specific locations and dates corresponding to known events in his life. This revelation suggested he may have left deliberate clues intended to taunt authorities even beyond the grave. Was he playing games right up until the end? Emily Carter, a forensic psychologist assigned to analyze his psychological profile, mused aloud during a private meeting with colleagues. Her voice cracked slightly, betraying exhaustion mixed with awe at the complexity of their subject. Atmosphere shifted dramatically as public interest surged once again. Forums buzzed with discussions, piecing together timelines and debating theories. Conversations ranged from speculative musings to well-researched arguments supported by hard data. One member, Amanda Grant, gained prominence when she identified similarities between his disappearance and other unsolved cases involving individuals with exceptional intellectual abilities. Her findings prompted renewed scrutiny of potential links between genius minds and clandestine operations. Families affected by similar losses gather annually to honor their loved ones, finding solace in shared memories and unwavering determination. "We won't stop fighting," says Linda Hayes during a memorial service held near North Wales. Her voice cracks with emotion, underscoring the personal stakes involved. And so, the legend persists not merely as a relic of the past, but as a testament to human resilience in the face of incomprehensible evil. And there we go, another memory back from the dark. Don't go too far, I've got more mysteries itching to be told. What do you think happened to Timothy? Let me know in the comments below. Your thoughts matter, and they shape the stories I share next. So go ahead, type it out, and hit send. I'll see you there. A man sits in complete darkness, his ears ringing from the relentless repetition of a single poem. It's not just any poem, it's Rudyard Kipling's Time's Boots*, played over and over again for hours on end. The sound is maddening, designed to break even the strongest minds. But why? This isn't some twisted form of punishment. It's part of one of the most grueling training programs in the world, the U.S. Navy SEALs SEER School Survival. Evasion, resistance, escape. What makes someone endure such psychological torment? And what happens when they crack under the pressure? Hey friends! You're in Dreamcatcher Stories, your cozy corner for stories that got lost along the way. Hit me up in the comments and tell me how this one hits you. Now, let's get sneaky and peek behind the curtain. The scene begins in Coronado, California, home to the legendary Naval Special Warfare Center. Here, recruits are pushed beyond their limits, not just physically, but mentally. Among them is a young man who dreams of becoming a SEAL. He's already survived Hell Week, where sleep deprivation and brutal physical challenges weed out the weak. But now, he faces something far more insidious: SEER training. This phase doesn't test strength or endurance. It tests resilience, willpower, and the ability to withstand captivity without breaking. SER is divided into two parts: classroom instruction and field exercises. In the classroom, candidates learn survival skills, evasion tactics, and how to resist interrogation. But the real challenge comes during the field exercise, a simulation of being captured behind enemy lines. Candidates are captured by instructors playing the role of hostile forces. They're blindfolded, bound, and subjected to sensory deprivation. For hours or sometimes days, they're kept in confined spaces, deprived of light, food, and human contact. And then, there's the audio. If you've ever heard Time's Boots Times by Rudyard Kipling, you know its rhythmic cadence can be hypnotic. But when played continuously at high volume, it becomes an instrument of torture. Imagine lying in total darkness, unable to move, as the same lines echo endlessly. Left, right, left, right. It's enough to drive anyone mad. During these sessions, candidates must remain silent and composed, no matter how overwhelming the stress becomes. Some cry, others scream. A rare few laugh hysterically. But all of them share one goal: to prove they won't break. Let's rewind to understand why this kind of training exists. The U.S. military invests millions in preparing operators for worst-case scenarios. SEALs aren't just elite soldiers, they're problem solvers, capable of functioning in environments most people couldn't survive. When deployed, they often operate deep behind enemy lines, where capture is a constant threat. If taken prisoner, they must resist interrogation long enough to protect classified information. That's where SEER comes in. The program mimics real-world conditions, exposing candidates to extreme stress so they can develop coping mechanisms. But it's not just about surviving captivity. SEER teaches candidates to think critically under pressure. Instructors observe every reaction, how they respond to threats, whether they maintain composure, and if they can adapt to unpredictable situations. Failure isn't an option here. Those who crumble during training may find themselves disqualified from the SEAL pipeline altogether. For many, this is the moment they realize how far they're willing to go and how much they're willing to sacrifice to earn the Trident pin. Then comes the twist. Not everyone survives SEER unscathed. While most candidates emerge stronger, some leave with scars that never fully heal. Take, for example, a recruit who endured a Time's Boots Times session longer than anyone else in his class. On paper, he passed with flying colors. Physically, he was fine. Mentally, however, cracks began to show. Months later, during deployment, he started experiencing panic attacks, triggered by repetitive sounds. Back home, he struggled to adjust to civilian life. Friends noticed changes. He became withdrawn, irritable, and prone to sudden outbursts. Doctors diagnosed him with PTSD, linked directly to his time in SARE. This revelation sparked debates within the military community. Was SARE too intense? Could prolonged exposure to psychological stress cause lasting damage? Researchers conducted studies comparing veterans who underwent SARE with those who didn't. Results were mixed. While some showed increased resilience, others exhibited symptoms consistent with trauma survivors. Critics argued that pushing candidates to their breaking point risked creating liabilities rather than assets. Supporters countered that war zones don't offer second chances and neither should training. Fast forward to 2023, and advancements in neuroscience provide new insights into the effects of extreme stress on the brain. Brain imaging technology reveals structural changes in individuals exposed to prolonged sensory deprivation and auditory overload. These findings prompt reforms in SARE protocols, emphasizing mental health support alongside physical conditioning. Candidates now receive counseling before and after training, ensuring they're equipped to handle both the rigors of service and the aftermath of combat. Social media platforms buzz with discussions, piecing together fragments of information related to SARE. Reddit forums dissect testimonials from former SEALs, debating the ethics of psychological warfare and training. Conversations range from speculative musings to well-researched arguments supported by data. One member, Brian Carter, gains prominence when he identifies similarities between SARE graduates and other elite operatives worldwide. His findings prompt renewed scrutiny of potential links between rigorous training methods and long-term psychological impacts. Meanwhile, public fascination with the SEALs grows exponentially thanks to burgeoning true crime podcasts and documentaries. Among them is Time's Through the Waves*, hosted by investigative journalist Linda Hayes. Each episode combines archival footage, expert analysis, and newly uncovered evidence to paint a vivid picture of events surrounding SARE training. Listeners become armchair detectives, debating theories ranging from necessary preparation to alleged abuse. During one particularly heated discussion forum, a listener named Amanda Grant posed a thought-provoking question. What if SARE isn't just about survival? What if it's also about desensitization? In 2018, a whistleblower came forward claiming to recall suspicious activity near SARE facilities. Though vague, these recollections sparked new lines of inquiry. Detectives revisited old statements, searching for overlooked details that might connect dots unseen before. Every little piece matters, insisted Detective James Peterson during another late-night session reviewing files stacked high around his desk. By 2020, social media played increasingly vital roles in disseminating information related to the case. Twitter threads dissected evidence, Reddit forums debated theories, and YouTube channels uploaded videos piecing together fragments of the puzzle. Then came the breakthrough. Forensic genealogy techniques identified a distant relative linked to DNA profiles discovered at the crime scene years earlier. Investigators raced to interview the individual, uncovering surprising ties to Willow Creek during the mid-1980 seconds. While circumstantial, the connection provided tantalizing possibilities worth pursuing. "We're closer than ever before," declared James during a press conference held amidst heightened tension. Cameras flashed as reporters clamored for answers, underscoring the significance of this development. Yet, despite these advances, fundamental questions remained unanswered. Why did Jack travel so far into the wilderness? How did he end up miles away from his starting point without leaving any discernible trail? And perhaps most hauntingly, what role, if any, did the town itself play in his demise? The atmosphere shifted dramatically as public interest in the case grew once again. Online forums buzzed with discussions, piecing together clues and debating theories. Social media campaigns reached millions, reminding the world of Jack's story and the importance of vigilance. What really happened to Jack? Is he still alive somewhere, waiting to be found? Or did some cruel twist of fate claim his life that fateful evening? These questions lingered like shadows over Willow Creek, casting doubt and despair over the hearts of those who cared. By 2023, significant progress had been made in identifying previously unknown victims connected to similar cases. Advances in forensic anthropology enabled analysis of skeletal remains discovered near remote locations frequented by hikers and campers. Each identification brought closure to grieving families, while simultaneously deepening society's collective unease about the extent of such crimes. Public memorials erected in honor of victims served dual purposes, commemorating lives lost and warning future generations against falling prey to similar ideologies. Throughout these developments, Emily maintained a complex relationship with her subject matter. On one hand, she felt driven by professional curiosity and moral obligation to uncover truths buried beneath layers of myth and misinformation. On the other hand, she grappled with personal demons triggered by immersing herself so deeply in darkness. How do you study something so monstrous without letting it consume you? She mused during a rare moment of reflection. Her efforts culminated in a comprehensive book published in late 2023 titled Times Beneath the Canopy: Understanding Unsolved Mysteries in Rural America, **. The manuscript combined historical research, contemporary analysis, and first-hand accounts to create the most complete picture of Jack's life and disappearance ever assembled. It resonated strongly with readers, sparking widespread discussions about mental health, criminal justice reform, and the nature of evil itself. Yet, despite all the revelations and advancements, fundamental questions remain unanswered. What exactly caused Jack to become who he was? Can anyone fully comprehend the depths of such depravity, or the circumstances surrounding his death? And perhaps most importantly, how do we prevent future generations from producing similar tragedies? These queries weigh heavily over the conclusion of our narrative, reminding us that while much has been learned since Jack's time, much remains mysterious. For every answer uncovered, new mysteries arise. As Emily puts it poignantly during a final interview, we may never fully understand Jack or anyone like him, but understanding ourselves better might help stop others from following in his footsteps. So, as we close this chapter of exploration into one man's descent into chaos, let us also consider what lessons it holds for humanity moving forward. Because only by confronting our darkest fears can we hope to illuminate paths toward light and redemption. Or will the shadows always hold sway, reminding us of the limits of human understanding? Now, imagine yourself walking through your neighborhood after hearing this tale. Who knows what secrets lie beneath the surface? And remember, while stories like Jack's may terrify us, they also remind us of our capacity to overcome adversity. Because in the end, it isn't the darkness that defines us, it's how we choose to respond to it. Do you believe the case will ever be fully solved? Or does its identity remain forever shrouded in darkness? As we ponder these questions, let us remember the life touched and tragically ended by this horrific act. Because only by honoring his memory can we hope to move forward, armed with knowledge and fortified by compassion. And there we go, another memory back from the dark. Don't go too far, I've got more mysteries itching to be told. A massive crater in the middle of an African game farm, stretching hundreds of feet wide. At its center lies what appears to be nothing more than a small puddle of water. But beneath that unassuming surface hides the deepest freshwater cave in the world, Bushman's Hole. It's a place where experienced divers dream of pushing their limits, but also where tragedy strikes without warning. This is where our story begins, with a young man who vanished into the abyss on Christmas Day in 1994. Hey friends, you're in Dreamcatcher Stories, your cozy corner for stories that got lost along the way. Hit me up in the comments and tell me how this one hits you. Now, let's get sneaky and peek behind the curtain. The year was 1994, and Bushman's Hole had already earned its reputation as both a marvel and a menace. Located on a privately owned farm in South Africa, it wasn't just any dive spot. It was a challenge for adrenaline junkies, thrill seekers, and those brave enough to face the unknown. For Dion Dreyer, a 20-year-old adrenaline enthusiast from South Africa, the allure was irresistible. By the time he reached his late teens, Dion had already built motorcycles, raced cars, and dabbled in extreme sports. But his true passion lay in exploring underwater caves, logging nearly 200 dives before being invited by a group of divers to explore Bushman's Hole over the holiday break. On paper, the plan seemed straightforward. Descend to about 492 feet, roughly halfway down the cave, and returned safely. The team consisted of seasoned divers, all confident in their abilities. As they prepared for the dive, excitement buzzed through the air. They checked their gear meticulously, ensuring everything was in perfect working order. Little did they know, the events of that day would haunt them forever. The descent went smoothly at first. The water was eerily calm, almost inviting, as if concealing the danger lurking below. About halfway through the ascent, however, things took a turn. One diver glanced back to check on Dion, giving him the universal OK hand signal. Dion responded in kind, signaling that all was well. His flashlight illuminated the murky depths around him, casting eerie shadows against the rocky walls of the cave. But moments later, when the same diver turned again to look for Dion, he was gone. Panic set in immediately. The diver signaled the others above him, halting the group mid-ascent. He swam as fast as he could toward the last known location of Dion, only to find his flashlight still attached to his gear, wavering faintly as it sank deeper into the darkness. Realizing the futility of attempting a rescue at such depths, the diver reluctantly returned to the surface, heartbroken and defeated. Dion Dreyer had disappeared into Bushman's Hole, leaving behind no trace except his helmet, which authorities later recovered using a robot. For Dion's parents, the pain of losing their son was compounded by the fact that they never received closure. Without a body to bury, they erected a plaque near the entrance of Bushman's Hole to commemorate his life. Years passed, and the memory of Dion faded into legend among local divers. Every so often, someone would mention seeing something unusual during a dive, but nothing concrete ever surfaced until 10 years later. In 2004, Dave Shaw, a 50-year-old veteran cave diver, embarked on a daring expedition to reach the bottom of Bushman's Hole. Reaching the 800-foot mark, Shaw became only the third person in history to achieve such a feat. Upon touching down on the sloping floor of the cave, he detached from his reel, switched on his flashlight, and began scanning the surroundings. About 50 feet away, he spotted something chilling, a human body lying motionless on its back, arms stretched out toward the surface. Shaw approached cautiously and instantly recognized the remains as belonging to Dion Dreyer. Shaw examined the body carefully, assessing whether it could be retrieved. Determined to bring closure to Dion's family, Shaw devised a meticulous plan to recover the remains. 10 days after submerging himself into the abyss, Shaw entered the water once again, this time equipped with a camera mounted on his helmet to document the operation. Dion's parents arrived intentionally late, standing quietly at the edge of the water, hoping not to add pressure to Shaw's mission. Descending rapidly, Shaw reached the bottom faster than expected. Locating Dion's body, he worked quickly, securing the remains inside a body bag. However, as he ascended, something went terribly wrong. Suffering from nitrogen narcosis, a condition caused by breathing compressed gases at depth, Shaw grew disoriented. Despite his best efforts to make it back to safety, his movements slowed dramatically. His breathing became labored, then silent. Moments later, Dave Shaw was dead. When the recovery team arrived to retrieve their equipment, they sang Amazing Grace in memoriam for the fallen diver. As they began pulling up the lines, bubbles rose from the depths, drawing their attention. To their astonishment, they realized the bubbles belonged to Shaw's body and miraculously, Dion's as well. Somehow, Shaw had managed to free Dion before succumbing to his fate. When the line was pulled, both bodies floated to the surface, fulfilling Shaw's promise to bring Dion home. Back at the morgue, investigators discovered Shaw's camera intact. Reviewing the footage frame by frame revealed the harrowing final moments of his journey. Though Shaw ultimately perished, his sacrifice ensured that Dion's family finally received the closure they had waited a decade for. This tragic tale raises questions that linger long after the story ends. What drives individuals like Dion and Dave to pursue such perilous adventures? Is it bravery, recklessness, or perhaps an insatiable curiosity about the unknown? And most importantly, how do we honor their memories while learning from their mistakes? And there we go. Another memory back from the dark. Don't go too far, I've got more mysteries itching to be told. What do you think happened down there in Bushman's Hole? Let me know in the comments below. Your thoughts matter, and they shape the stories I share next. So go ahead, type it out, and hit send. I'll see you there. It was a quiet Sunday evening in rural Ontario, Canada, on August 15th, 1971. A young man, just 23 years old, is flipping through an old photo album in his cozy living room. The pages are filled with snapshots of adventure scuba diving in crystal clear waters, mountain biking down rugged trails, and skydiving above sprawling landscapes. He lived for adrenaline, always chasing the next thrill. But as he turned another page, there came a knock at the door, a sound that would change everything. Little did he know, this seemingly ordinary moment would spiral into one of the most baffling cases ever recorded. Hey friends, you're in Dreamcatcher Stories, your cozy corner for stories that got lost along the way. Hit me up in the comments and tell me how this one hits you. Now, let's get sneaky and peek behind the curtain. The small town where our story unfolds is picturesque, surrounded by dense forests and rolling hills. It's the kind of place where everyone knows each other, and life moves at a slow, predictable pace. Our protagonist, Michael, had grown up here, but never quite fit the mold of a quiet country boy. To those who knew him, he was magnetic, charismatic, daring, and always pushing boundaries. His walls were adorned with maps marking destinations he dreamed of exploring, and his bookshelves overflowed with tales of survival and exploration. Yet, despite his love for adventure, Michael remained deeply connected to his roots, often spending weekends helping neighbors or visiting family nearby. That fateful evening, Michael sat alone in his modest home, reminiscing about past escapades captured in photographs. As dusk settled over the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, the sudden knock startled him. Pausing mid-page flip, he rose from his chair and opened the door to find a police officer standing on his porch. The officer introduced himself politely, explaining that he was conducting routine checks in the area. Michael welcomed him inside, offering coffee as they chatted casually about local happenings. Nothing seemed unusual until later that night, when strange noises echoed outside Michael's house. As hours passed, unease crept into Michael's mind. He couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. A distant rustling in the bushes caught his attention, followed by faint whispers carried on the wind. Venturing cautiously toward the window, he peered out into the darkness, squinting against the glare of moonlight filtering through trees. Shadows danced eerily, though no source could be identified. Returning to his seat, Michael tried dismissing the paranoia, convincing himself it was merely fatigue playing tricks on his senses. However, deep down, he knew better. Let's rewind slightly to understand what led us to this point. Earlier that week, rumors began circulating among townsfolk about peculiar occurrences: missing livestock, unexplained footprints left in freshly tilled soil, and eerie lights hovering near forest edges after sunset. Though dismissed initially as superstition or coincidence, these reports grew increasingly frequent, fueling anxiety within the community. Some whispered of ancient legends tied to the land, while others speculated about outsiders trespassing under cover of night. Whatever the truth, fear brewed silently beneath the surface, waiting for a spark to ignite chaos. Back to the present. Dawn broke without incident, leaving Michael relieved yet unsettled. Determined to uncover answers, he decided to investigate further. Armed with binoculars and a flashlight, he ventured into the woods surrounding his property. What he discovered chilled him to the bone: a series of cryptic symbols carved into tree trunks, forming a crude path leading deeper into the wilderness. Each step forward revealed more unsettling details. Discarded items belonging to missing persons, fragments of torn clothing snagged on branches, and hollowed-out animal carcasses arranged ritualistically around makeshift altars. Then came the twist. Upon reaching a clearing bathed in sunlight, Michael stumbled upon a makeshift campsite littered with personal belongings, unmistakably linked to recent disappearances plaguing the region. Among them lay journals detailing macabre rituals performed by someone known only as Mona, a name whispered with equal parts reverence and dread throughout neighboring counties. According to entries scrawled hastily in ink-stained handwriting, Mona claimed descent from a secretive lineage tasked with maintaining balance between worlds unseen. Her methods? Ritualistic executions designed to appease shadowy entities dwelling beyond mortal comprehension. Public fascination skyrocketed once word spread about Michael's findings. True crime enthusiasts flocked to online forums, dissecting every detail uncovered thus far. Podcast hosts like Linda Hayes dedicated entire episodes to unraveling Mona's twisted ideology, drawing parallels between her actions and historical accounts of occult practices dating back centuries. Listeners became armchair detectives, piecing together timelines and debating theories ranging from psychological manipulation to supernatural intervention. One particularly heated discussion centered around whether Mona acted alone or commanded followers operating covertly within plain sight. Fast forward to 2023, and advancements in forensic technology offered fresh insights into the case. Researchers applied cutting-edge DNA analysis techniques to trace potential links between Mona's victims, revealing patterns previously obscured by time and decay. Dr. Emily Grant, a renowned forensic psychologist specializing in criminal behavior, collaborated closely with Detective Mark Thompson, revisiting cold cases potentially connected to Mona's reign of terror. Their investigation extended beyond Ontario, uncovering similar incidents scattered across North America during the same era. Could these crimes represent extensions of Mona's activities, or were they copycat offenses inspired by media coverage of her atrocities? Meanwhile, social media platforms buzzed with activity as amateur sleuths joined forces with seasoned investigators. Reddit threads dissected evidence, Twitter hashtags trended globally, and YouTube channels uploaded videos analyzing cryptic messages embedded within Mona's journals. One user, Brian Carter, gained prominence after developing an algorithm capable of decoding hidden patterns within archived materials. His work attracted widespread acclaim, sparking renewed interest in unsolved mysteries long forgotten by law enforcement agencies. Are we looking at isolated incidents or part of something larger? Brian asked during a live Q&A session, prompting nods of agreement from participants. Atmosphere shifted dramatically as public intrigue surged once again. Forums buzzed with discussions, piecing together clues and debating theories. Conversations ranged from speculative musings to well-researched arguments supported by hard data. One member, Amanda Grant, gained prominence when she identified similarities between Mona's case and other mysterious deaths involving individuals found miles away from their last known location. Her findings prompted authorities to explore connections previously dismissed as coincidental. Are we looking at copycat crimes? Or does this suggest something larger? By now, you might think the story ends here, but it doesn't. In recent years, new developments reignited interest in the case. Forensic genealogy techniques identified relatives linked to DNA profiles discovered at the crime scene years earlier, prompting investigators to revisit old leads. Detectives traced these connections back to individuals known to associate with underground organizations specializing in illegal technology trade. Could these groups have played a role in Mona's demise? If so, why target someone seemingly disconnected from their operations? Amidst growing intrigue, amateur sleuths joined professional detectives in piecing together fragments of information. Podcasts dedicated to exploring her life and crimes reached millions, sparking debates among listeners eager to solve the riddle themselves. Episodes examining societal factors contributing to her descent into madness resonated strongly with audiences navigating uncertain times. Could such a mind exist today, armed with modern tools and access to classified systems? Host Paul Hayes posed this question rhetorically during the season finale of Time's Unraveling Genius *, leaving listeners pondering implications long after the episode aired. 2 years later, researchers announced they had decoded messages embedded in artwork created during her final days. Sophisticated image recognition software identified recurring themes tied to specific locations and dates corresponding to known events in her life. This revelation suggested she may have left deliberate clues intended to taunt authorities even beyond the grave. Was she playing games right up until the end? Emily Carter, a forensic psychologist assigned to analyze her psychological profile, mused aloud during a private meeting with colleagues. Her voice cracked slightly, betraying exhaustion mixed with awe at the complexity of their subject. Atmosphere shifted dramatically as public interest surged once again. Forums buzzed with discussions, piecing together timelines and debating theories. Social media campaigns reached millions, reminding the world of her story and the importance of vigilance. What really happened to her? Is she still alive somewhere, waiting to be found? Or did some cruel twist of fate claim her life that fateful evening? These questions lingered like shadows over Willow Creek, casting doubt and despair over the hearts of those who cared. And there we go, another memory back from the dark. Don't go too far, I've got more mysteries itching to be told. What do you think happened to Michael? Let me know in the comments below. Your thoughts matter, and they shape the stories I share next. So go ahead, type it out, and hit send. I'll see you there. It was a cold night in 1980 when a young couple, fresh from celebrating their wedding day, drove down a quiet road in Watertown, Wisconsin. They were laughing, holding hands, and enjoying the start of their new life together. But what happened next would leave investigators baffled for decades. An unknown man approached their car, broke in, and shot them both to death before vanishing into the darkness without a trace. The killer's identity? A mystery. The motive? Unknown. It was as if he had simply appeared out of thin air. Hey friends, you're in Dreamcatcher Stories, your cozy corner for stories that got lost along the way. Hit me up in the comments and tell me how this one hits you. Now, let's get sneaky and peek behind the curtain. The story begins with a man who lived a double life. To those around him, he seemed like a reformed criminal, someone who had turned away from his dark past and embraced law-abiding citizenship. He raised a family, held down steady jobs, and presented himself as a pillar of respectability. But behind closed doors, things were far from perfect. His daughter, now grown, grew up fearing him. She knew her father wasn't the man he claimed to be. Behind his calm exterior lay a violent temper and compulsive tendencies that made her question everything about him. Throughout her childhood, she remembered nights when the entire family would pack up suddenly and move in the dead of night. Her father always gave the same excuse. I was an informant back in jail, and some people I snitched on have found us. We need to disappear. But even as a child, she didn't believe him. Something felt off about these stories. As she grew older, her suspicions deepened. Was her father still involved in crime? Or worse, was he hiding something darker? Fast forward to 2009, long after the world had forgotten about him. April, now 40 years old, decided it was time to confront the truth about her father. She couldn't shake the feeling that he had never truly changed. One name kept coming back to haunt her thoughts. Ed Edwards, a man whose charm masked a sinister history. Growing up, April had witnessed moments of violence and manipulation at home. And then there were the moves, the constant uprooting of their lives under mysterious circumstances. Each time they relocated, April wondered if her father was running from something or someone. But it wasn't until she stumbled upon an unsolved murder case from 1980 that pieces started falling into place. In Watertown, Wisconsin, a town where her family briefly resided, a young newlywed couple had been brutally murdered. Witnesses described the assailant as matching her father's description. This revelation sent chills down April's spine. Could Ed Edwards have been responsible? Acting on instinct, April contacted the Watertown Police Department the very next day. She shared her suspicions and urged them to reopen the investigation. As detectives dug deeper, unsettling patterns emerged. Ed Edwards wasn't just any ordinary man. He was a career criminal with ties to multiple unsolved cases across the United States. From robberies to murders, his trail of destruction spanned decades. Yet, somehow, he managed to evade capture for most of his crimes. That is, until 2009, when DNA evidence finally caught up with him. Investigators linked him to several homicides, including the infamous Happy Face Killer murders. which earned their grim nickname due to Edward's habit of drawing smiley faces near his victims' bodies. Let's rewind to understand the man behind the mask. Born in the early 20th century, Edwards grew up in poverty, surrounded by hardship. From a young age, he learned to rely on deceit and manipulation to survive. By adulthood, he had honed his skills into a deadly art form. Charismatic yet calculating, Edwards could charm anyone into trusting him, only to betray them later. His ability to blend into society allowed him to operate undetected for years. Even when caught, he often slipped through cracks in the justice system, leaving victims' families desperate for answers. Then came the twist. As authorities pieced together Edward's criminal profile, they discovered shocking connections between his known crimes and other cold cases. For instance, the Watertown murders weren't isolated incidents, they fit into a larger pattern of violence stretching across state lines. Evidence suggested Edwards traveled extensively, committing crimes wherever he went. Some speculated he may have even trained others in his methods, creating a network of copycat killers. If true, this raised terrifying questions about how many more victims might exist. Public fascination with Edwards' case skyrocketed after details leaked online. True crime enthusiasts flocked to forums, debating whether Edwards acted alone or as part of a broader conspiracy. Among them was Brian Carter, a self-taught programmer who developed algorithms capable of identifying patterns within vast datasets. Using advanced software, he analyzed thousands of archived documents related to Edwards' activities. His findings pointed toward possible links between Edwards and other unsolved crimes nationwide. Could these cases represent extensions of Edwards' work, or were they inspired by media coverage of his exploits? Social media platforms buzzed with theories, ranging from credible analyses to wild speculation. Podcasts dedicated to exploring Edwards' life and crimes attracted millions of listeners eager to solve the riddle themselves. Episodes examining societal factors contributing to his descent into madness resonated strongly with audiences navigating uncertain times. Could such a mind exist today, armed with modern tools and access to classified systems? Host Paul Hayes posed this question rhetorically during the season finale of Time's Unraveling Genius*, leaving listeners pondering implications long after the episode aired. 2 years later, researchers announced they had decoded messages embedded in artwork created during Edwards' incarceration. Sophisticated image recognition software identified recurring themes tied to specific locations and dates corresponding to known events in his life. This revelation suggested Edwards may have left deliberate clues intended to taunt authorities even beyond the grave. Was he playing games right up until the end? Emily Carter, a forensic psychologist assigned to analyze his psychological profile, mused aloud during a private meeting with colleagues. Her voice cracked slightly, betraying exhaustion mixed with awe at the complexity of their subject. Atmosphere shifted dramatically as public interest surged once again. Forums buzzed with discussions, piecing together timelines and debating theories. Conversations ranged from speculative musings to well-researched arguments supported by hard data. One member, Amanda Grant, gained prominence when she identified similarities between Edwards' disappearance and other unsolved cases involving individuals with exceptional intellectual abilities. Her findings prompted renewed scrutiny of potential links between genius minds and clandestine operations. Families affected by similar losses gather annually to honor their loved ones, finding solace in shared memories and unwavering determination. "We won't stop fighting," says Linda Hayes during a memorial service held near North Wales. Her voice cracks with emotion, underscoring the personal stakes involved. And so, the legend persists not merely as a relic of the past, but as a testament to human resilience in the face of incomprehensible evil. And there we go, another memory back from the dark. Don't go too far, I've got more mysteries itching to be told. What do you think happened to Ed Edwards? Let me know in the comments below. Your thoughts matter, and they shape the stories I share next. So go ahead, type it out, and hit send. I'll see you there. A remote jungle in Guyana, South America, where nearly 1,000 people lived together in what appeared to be a utopian community. It was called Jonestown, named after its charismatic leader who promised equality, peace, and salvation. But on November 18th, 1978, the world would learn of its horrifying end. A tragedy that left 918 men, women, and children dead under circumstances so shocking they remain etched into history as one of humanity's darkest chapters. What happened in those final hours, and why did it spiral out of control? Hey friends, you're in Dreamcatcher Stories, your cozy corner for stories that got lost along the way. Hit me up in the comments and tell me how this one hits you. Now, let's get sneaky and peek behind the curtain. The story begins in San Francisco during the late 1960s. A preacher with magnetic charm rose to prominence, captivating followers with his promises of racial harmony, social justice, and spiritual enlightenment. He spoke passionately about creating a better world free from oppression, drawing in thousands of devoted believers. At first glance, he seemed like an advocate for change, someone fighting against inequality and injustice. Yet beneath his polished exterior lay a manipulative mind capable of bending reality to fit his narrative. By the mid-1970s, scrutiny grew around his organization. Media outlets began investigating allegations of financial fraud, physical abuse, and psychological manipulation within the group. Fearing exposure, the leader decided to relocate his followers to a compound deep in the jungles of Guyana, far away from prying eyes. There, he claimed, they could build their paradise, a self-sufficient agricultural project designed to shield them from societal corruption. To outsiders, it sounded idyllic. To insiders, it became something else entirely. Jonestown wasn't just isolated geographically, it was cut off mentally and emotionally. Life inside the compound revolved around strict rules enforced by armed guards. Followers worked tirelessly under harsh conditions, often deprived of food or sleep. Questioning authority wasn't tolerated. Dissenters faced public humiliation or worse. Over time, paranoia seeped into every aspect of life. The leader frequently warned residents that enemies lurked everywhere, ready to destroy their dream. His speeches grew increasingly apocalyptic, painting a bleak picture of persecution and betrayal. Then came the turning point. In November 1978, Congressman Leo Ryan traveled to Jonestown to investigate claims of human rights abuses. Accompanied by journalists and concerned family members, he arrived expecting chaos but found a well-maintained settlement. Residents greeted him warmly, singing songs and sharing meals. For a moment, it seemed the reports were exaggerated, but cracks soon surfaced. Several defectors approached Ryan, pleading for help to escape. As tensions escalated, gunfire erupted at the airstrip where the delegation prepared to leave. Ryan and 4 others were killed instantly. Back at Jonestown, panic set in. The leader knew the massacre would draw global attention, exposing everything he had worked so hard to conceal. In response, he gathered everyone in the central pavilion, delivering a chilling speech about their impending doom. According to survivors, he convinced residents that suicide was the only way to avoid capture and torture at the hands of their enemies. Cyanide-laced flavor aid was distributed, starting with the children. Adults followed suit, drinking the poison willingly, or so it seemed. What makes this tragedy even more harrowing is the sheer scale of death. Entire families perished together, their bodies sprawled across the muddy ground. Some tried to resist, only to be forcibly injected with the lethal mixture. Others fled into the jungle, hoping to evade fate. But few succeeded. By morning, Jonestown lay silent, its once vibrant community reduced to a graveyard. Now, let's rewind to understand how such a nightmare unfolded. How did a man initially seen as a beacon of hope turn into a figure synonymous with mass destruction? Experts believe his charisma masked deeper issues: narcissism, delusions of grandeur, and an insatiable need for control. Early followers describe him as empathetic and inspiring, qualities that attracted vulnerable individuals seeking purpose. Over time, however, his methods shifted. Public shaming sessions replaced encouragement. Loyalty tests replaced trust. Fear became the glue holding the community together. For years, questions lingered. Were the residents brainwashed, unable to think critically? Or did some truly believe in the cause until the bitter end? Psychological studies suggest both scenarios played a role. Many victims exhibited signs of Stockholm Syndrome, clinging to their captor out of desperation. Others may have genuinely feared external threats, conditioned to see the leader as their savior. Regardless of motive, the outcome remains devastating, a stark reminder of how easily idealism can curdle into fanaticism. As news spread, shockwaves rippled worldwide. Journalists scrambled to piece together timelines, uncovering disturbing details about life in Jonestown. Audio recordings revealed chilling conversations between the leader and his inner circle, discussing everything from murder-suicide plans to perceived conspiracies. Letters smuggled out by defectors painted grim portraits of daily existence, detailing starvation, beatings, and constant surveillance. Each revelation added layers to the tragedy, forcing society to confront uncomfortable truths about blind faith and unchecked power. Fast forward to modern times, and technology offers new insights. Advances in forensic science allow researchers to analyze remains buried hastily after the massacre. DNA testing connects victims to surviving relatives, bringing closure to families torn apart decades ago. Meanwhile, amateur sleuths comb through archives, piecing together fragments overlooked by official investigations. One researcher, Brian Carter, gained fame developing algorithms to decode patterns hidden within survivor testimonies. His findings sparked renewed interest, prompting discussions about cult dynamics and prevention strategies. Social media plays a pivotal role in keeping memories alive. Platforms like Reddit and YouTube host forums dedicated to exploring unanswered questions. True crime enthusiasts debate theories ranging from government cover-ups to supernatural influences. Among them is Linda Hayes, whose podcast Times Voices of Jonestown Times combines archival footage, expert interviews, and first-hand accounts to create immersive narratives. Episodes resonate deeply with listeners, sparking conversations about mental health, trauma recovery, and accountability. Public fascination extends beyond podcasts. Documentaries, books, and museum exhibits continue shedding light on Jonestown's legacy. In 2023, a groundbreaking study analyzed personality traits common among cult leaders, identifying warning signs useful for intervention efforts. Researchers emphasized education as a key tool, urging communities to recognize red flags before situations escalate. These initiatives reflect growing awareness and determination to prevent future tragedies. But here's the twist. Despite overwhelming evidence pointing to manipulation and coercion, doubts persist. Some argue certain aspects don't align with traditional cult behavior. Why, for instance, did highly educated professionals join willingly? Could external pressures have influenced decisions? While no definitive answers exist, these queries highlight complexities inherent in understanding human nature. Consider this. Survivors recount hearing whispers long after the massacre, rumors of secret documents, hidden funds, even covert operations involving foreign governments. Though unsubstantiated, such tales fuel speculation, blurring lines between fact and fiction. Are we looking at isolated incidents or part of a larger conspiracy? Investigators struggle to separate truth from myth, hampered by incomplete records and conflicting testimonies. Meanwhile, psychologists study behavioral patterns exhibited by participants, hoping to identify vulnerabilities exploited by leaders. Findings suggest susceptibility stems from factors like isolation, fear, and cognitive dissonance. But broader implications raise unsettling questions. If ordinary people can commit extraordinary atrocities, what does that say about us? Can anyone truly claim immunity from influence? As years pass, additional developments emerge. In 2025, archaeologists unearth artifacts near the original site, offering glimpses into daily life. Tools, clothing, and personal belongings provide tangible connections to those lost. Exhibitions showcasing these items travel globally, reminding audiences of resilience amidst despair. Families affected gather annually to honor loved ones, finding solace in shared grief and unwavering resolve. Through it all, one truth stands clear. Jonestown represents more than a single event. It symbolizes humanity's capacity for both cruelty and compassion. For every answer uncovered, new mysteries arise. For every step forward, obstacles loom large. Yet through perseverance, understanding transcends generations, binding us together in pursuit of peace and resolution. And there we go. Another memory back from the dark. Don't go too far, I've got more mysteries itching to be told. What do you think really happened in Jonestown? Was it pure manipulation? Or did other forces play a role? Let me know in the comments below. Your thoughts matter, shaping not just my stories, but our collective quest for truth. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning.